This is Tara McGinnis, and this is Theatrical Makeup Design Interactive. Today's makeup lesson is for doing stylized horror makeup, not as in three-dimensional, but simply to go and use the tools that you've used for doing aged and character makeup and applying them in unusual ways to go and suggest unusual characters like vampires and other creatures from classic horror. The makeup I'm going to show you is actually one taken more or less from a film. This one is that which was worn by Werner Krauss, I suppose, Werner Krauss in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in 1920. And it's very important design-wise for the following reason. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was a production done by the state-run movie studio in Germany just after the First World War. The German government, just after the First World War, was pretty close to bankrupt. And the studio, as a consequence, wasn't getting money. So, when they were thinking of doing this horror story, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, about an evil mesmerist who has hypnotized some young man to go around strangling people, they were going to do all these wonderful German expressionist painting-like lighting effects, and they had plans to do that design-wise. And then, because they hadn't paid the power bill, their power was cut. And what they did as an answer to that was one of the best designs in a film in the 20th century. They decided that, okay, they had to go and film it in the glass studios where all the lighting was just natural daylight. And what they did is they got bits of old paint and they painted the lighting effects onto the scenery like a German expressionist painting. And they painted the lighting effects onto the faces in an extreme form of black and white makeup. And so when you see this film, all of it was done with a generalized white daylight through a glass. They didn't get any of the lighting effects using lighting. They thought of what they wanted in lighting effects and they painted them in. So from a designer's perspective, it's a really very exciting movie, and it's still shown routinely in film schools and elsewhere for people to admire. Goths worship this film for good reasons. So what you'll get is something that looks very much like a goth makeup. So the makeup I'm going to do is that which was worn by Werner Krauss, who played Dr. Caligari, the evil mesmerist. And I'm going to start out with a base that is pretty close to dead white, using my white and putting it on fairly thickly. Over all parts of my face. Now, why this is important for the stage? Generally speaking, horror is mainly a genre used in films. But every now and then, somebody decides to put on productions of Dracula, or we did a rather lamentable but wonderful, like so dreadful it was delightful, production of Frankenstein many years ago at our university. And when you get these stage productions, they usually have some reference to the early films, but they are taken in the most extreme stylized directions because, of course, realistic horror is much easier and better done on film. So the stylized formats of it are the ones that you most often want to use on stage. You want to go and take that kind of Cabinet of Dr. Caligari extremity and apply it to your characters So, starting out with a white that's not as extreme as if I'd completely powdered it or done kabuki makeup where there's very, very strong white, but completely pale and unhealthy. Now, the next color I will put on is a dark purple known as Misty Violet. I'm going to put in the basic shadows with this, since it will blend out a little more easily. Right. Now, I'm going to do the same sort of things that you saw me do in some of the old age makeups, but I'm going to do it in this unnatural purple color. And a little bit. So here you have something that's like the forehead wrinkle, but simpler, more stylized, and in an unnatural color. So you're doing things that are based on age makeup, but you're stylizing them to the point that realism is no longer what you're seeking. Because there really aren't that many mad mesmerists who keep young men in coffins so that they can go and terrorize the community as hypnotized serial killers. Note again, I've got my evil eyebrows growing back together again. They're becoming huge going across. Now, a little bit out here. Note that I'm not putting a lot of dark right close to the eyes because I want to make the eyes look bigger. You can see that this is being put in the same sort of places that you put a shadow in a regular age makeup. But it's getting stylized. I'm putting this darkness to make the eyes go closer together through here. But I'm still leaving nice big rings of white around so the eyes look large. And blend it down, same way I would with a natural color, so that you still get the hard and soft edge and you get dimensionality. Remember what I said about if you're going to use your eye wrinkles, if you're a scary guy or a sad one, you have them go down. If you're going to be happy and perky, they can go up. Now, find my nasolabial fold. Now, Werner Krauss took this, pulled it all the way down the chin. goes from the edge of the nose now. I'm softening this in both directions because I'm going to put an even darker color, a black, on the edges to make this look more extreme, because you don't have a lot of highlighter to go extremely in the other direction. All right, so down. And then we have the opposite of a smile line. I have to make sure mine don't contradict a smile line, though. It's a hard one on me, because I do have smile lines over there. Oh dear. Pulled in cheeks. Sharp little bits coming up for jaw. And almost completely white lips, so that he almost has no mouth at all. You've got a little shadow underneath, more or less goes straight across. To suggest where the bottom of the lips are. That's all. And then this is very pronounced. So the upper lip mostly disappears. And that sort of angry forehead look. There. In addition to this, Werner Krauss had his white hair slicked back and black streaks done with India ink up here, so that he had black streaks in the white that looked very much like the way German Expressionist drawings looked. Now I'm going to take my black and make certain areas of this more pronounced. This is especially important if you are using white as your base, because you suddenly have very little option for highlighter, and so you have to give your shadow a medium tone and a darker tone. The dark parts have to have more than one section to them. So now I have truly evil eyebrows. So this gives you a very glowering eyebrow, but because of there being quite a lot of white around here, it doesn't make your eyes disappear into the eyebrow. And then the darkest parts of this give you sort of an almost raccoon look. Now, part of the interesting thing about this makeup is it has this giant thing going that looks almost like a pair of glasses, and it's made to be worn under a pair of glasses, so it actually heightens the appearance of the glasses. And then the middle of the mouth, I'm painting the smallest, thinnest lips you've ever seen. I'm essentially painting the immediate inside of the lip, just enough so that when your lips open, they're not the same color as your teeth, and the teeth show up. Because you don't want somebody like this to not have scary teeth. Let's see. And then a little line there. So it always looks a little bit sharp. Little line there. Pulled in, very sharp. Then, just as an idea of what it looks like, having the painted on streaks here. And then the last part, making the nostrils bigger. Now, because I didn't do my white completely dead white, I can actually get away with using a bit of white like a highlighter if I put it on more thickly in those areas. And consequently, I can get some portions of this to look more extreme. Oh, and now. I think actually on the tip of the nose. His are actually giant pince-nez. You can see how, even with the glasses, it doesn't become a large black thing by having those huge white bits around it. And though the mouth is small, anything you do with it is really exaggerated by this sort of thing.